We understand that the defense lawyer for Bill Hwang, currently Barry Burke, is taking a stand, really talking about how investment banks were falling over themselves to work with the company. And really some of the bets that he made from our perspective in tech was Viacom CBS, now Paramount, saying content was king, Sonali.
Yeah, he is really driving home that argument. To your point here, you do see the defense counsel now speaking right after the prosecution had made their opening argument. And the defense is making this case that Archegos was a family office and it was not responsible for outside money. Bill Hwang was responsible for his own funds. It also made the case there that when he made these bets, it was his own money that he lost, not investors' money on the outside, although we do know separately that the banks themselves had lost a significant amount of money through engaging in these swap agreements with Hwang's firm. Now, we look at the defense here, and they also talk about the nature of the bets themselves. You may remember when all of this started to unravel, it was around Viacom CBS. So you do have the defense attorney speaking to a jury largely not versed in the world of finance, Caroline, and explaining that Bill Hwang was betting on stocks that he believed in, and that's why he was betting so much. Some of his earlier bets, like Netflix, were hugely profitable for him back in the day, and now when he was thinking about the new bets put to work, he was making the case that content is king, like you're saying,
right.
And that's why he bet so much on Viacom, essentially through borrowed money.
You know, for US prosecutors, this is a big white-collar crime case. You know, it's up there in terms of the scale and the action by their offices with what happened with FTX and others. What are you expecting to happen, Sonali? How many days, weeks will this go on for?
It could take a number of weeks. And remember, we do have just the opening arguments, as we've been talking about. We could hear from witnesses, Ed, as soon as today. One of the early witnesses very early on in this trial will be, for example, counterparties over at UBS that was on the other end of the Bill Hwang call when it came to asking for margin. Now, I would also say, remember that there are two people that worked at Archegos that have pled guilty and can also be testifying potentially throughout the course of this trial in those weeks. And one big question mark was how much they acted alone or because of the culture at Archegos and directed by Bill Hwang to do so. This will get quite contentious because we know that the defense plans to show that the banks acted on their own. You saw it in the opening arguments, this idea that these banks were falling over themselves to work for Bill Hwang when he was at his height. Now, remember, another piece of evidence that we wonder about whether it will show the light of day and how it will be used is Credit Suisse's own risk profile and risk assessment of itself as it failed. As we know, Archegos wasn't the only reason Credit Suisse had failed, but it was a massive contributing factor to those significant losses faced by Credit Suisse as it was failing. So a lot of complicated questions in the course of this trial. It could take weeks to play out. They're facing a number of charges here, including racketeering, securities fraud, and wire fraud. The charges alone each could face up to 20 years in prison. And as we know, some of the attorneys in here, the prosecutors, were involved in the FTX trial very recently as well. So this is an office coming very hard down on white-collar crime.
Sonali, has anything changed to protect this happening again from family office perspective, from counterparty perspectives?
That's the best question, I think, coming out of this, because this trial does have the potential to draw light again to a lot of the practices that got us here. And if you think about it, swaps rules in some form have been altered. The SEC had taken a look at it. The SEC and the CFTC have fought over jurisdiction around a lot of these trades. Some of the ways that they have been changed were simply post-2008 Dodd-Frank rules that were changed not until recently. But to the point about family offices and disclosure, that has not been changed. And that is something that regulators may take a look at once again, given what happened here and given that nothing is really different for any future problems.